Funding for this program is provided by Bruce Foods Corporation, makers of the complete line of Cajun King seafood seasoning mixes and other distinctive Louisiana-style food products.
Louisiana. Hello, I'm Chef John Folse, welcoming you to this great state of ours. We're real proud of our people, places, and food, and I'd like for you to know a little bit more about it. So join me and some of my friends as we visit the historical food towns of this state and cook up another great Taste of Louisiana. Hello, everybody, and welcome to A Taste of Louisiana. I'm Chef John Folse, and I want to thank you for visiting in the kitchen today as we continue to search out and find those great historical food towns of Louisiana. Today, we're going to take a trip to the northern part of the state, to Lincoln Parish, and to the town of Ruston and Grambling. Ruston was founded early in the century by Mr. Robert Rust, and this little building here is the Kit Davis House. It was built in 1885, and the Davis lady who built the house was actually one of the sisters of the infamous Long family in Louisiana, the governors and the senators. This is the living room of this house, and it is the Tourist Information Center in Ruston, so anybody can stop in any day to visit it. This little dollhouse is just unbelievable. It was built by some interior design students that were coming on through and had to build it as a class project. And when you look into the inside of each of these little rooms, this is my favorite, of course, it looks like it's almost the real thing. You could just walk right on in. This is a very good friend of mine. This is Irma Hudson, and Irma owned a restaurant in Ruston, Irma's, if you can believe that's the name of it, and it was famous for a couple things, pastries, rolls, and cheesecake. She had one of the most famous cheesecakes, has one of the most famous cheesecakes in all of Louisiana. And one thing about cooks in this part of the country, they will never share a recipe unless they get one in return. So I was trying to get Irma to give me her famous recipe for cheesecake, and I was giving her my recipe for jambalaya and gumbo. I had to give 2 for 1, and that wasn't even fair. Here I am getting a little sample of that great Pauline cheesecake. Look how creamy it is. She says the secret is in the cream cheese and the number of eggs that you put in, but she topped it with a little bit of that great praline sauce. She makes it just by caramelizing a little sugar and praline liqueur and pecans. What a great dessert that was. Yep, I had to kiss her. The recipe was so great. And I know good and well that she's made my jambalaya and gumbo as well. About 3 miles out of the city of Ruston is Grambling, and Grambling is one of the fastest growing black universities in America. It was Booker T. Washington who actually sent Charles Adams right down the street to open that university, and I tell you, not only is it a great scholastic program, it's known as one of the great football powers in all of America. And guess who's my guest today? That's right, Coach Eddie Robinson, the coach of the Grambling Tigers. And if you have a son, or a daughter for that matter, who may want to ever be a great football star or was a great football star, get them to sit in front of this TV, because Coach Robinson is going to share some great stories with us just a little bit later as he comes into the kitchen. What a great man he is. Now, we talk about football. We talk about North Louisiana. We have to talk about tailgating and barbecuing, because nothing goes better with football than barbecuing. Some of the great barbecue restaurants are located above Alexandria and toward the northern part of our state. And one of the dishes that I want to do for you today, the first dish, is going to be a great barbecued short ribs. And I want you to take a look in this bowl here. I have some short ribs. Now, these are beef short ribs cut right off of the prime rib of beef. Your butcher will be more than happy to do these for you. I left the bone in these. However, you can also get them totally boneless, and you can see what a nice piece of meat this is. When barbecuing ribs, you might want to remember that there's short ribs. There's also the little baby back pork ribs, and there's many, many different types of ribs that you can get from lamb and, of course, wild game. But I like the short ribs because they're so much more meatier. However, they tend to be just a little bit tougher. And I've got a secret recipe I want to share with you today on how to tenderize these nice short ribs. I'm going to begin by boiling the ribs in a little stock. That's the important thing here. If you boil them, you'll tenderize them. And I've got a pot of water that I've just put boiling a couple minutes ago with some onions, and I'm going to add a few little ingredients to it. I've got some diced chopped onions here. I've got some nice carrots, and I'm going to put them right down into the pot. Here's the cubed, and of course you can leave the peelings on the onions if you'd like. I'm going to put some carrots for sweetness, and here is a little garlic I've cut right through the cloves, some bay leaves, and of course put as much as you would like down into it. I'm going to put some peppercorns. That'll give it that nice little spicy flavor that we're looking for. And then, of course, the ribs. I'm going to drop the ribs right into the simmering pot. And imagine after about, 45 minutes of simmering in this liquid, these ribs are going to be so nice and tender, you can almost eat them just like that. However, we're going to barbecue them right after. So I would allow this to cook for, as I say, about 45 minutes, but check for tenderness. And don't just sit there and boil them away. Just kind of simmer them. Cut that heat down and just let the pot simmer until the short ribs are nice and tender. Now, I have some that's already done. Look at them right here. And now that they're nice and tender, I'm going to go ahead and make the barbecue sauce. Into my little black iron pot, I'm going to add a little bit butter. Of course, you can use margarine. You can use any kind of the low cholesterol oils that's out on the market today and kind of kick that heat up. And this barbecue sauce is going to have, of course, what makes all good barbecue sauces good: a little onions, celery, and of course garlic. We have to have a lot of garlic in good barbecue sauce. I'm going to put a nice big healthy spoon of garlic in there, maybe 2 of them. I'll saute this just a second to wilt the vegetables, and then I'm going to add a little bit of this orange rind, because this is going to have a nice orange flavor to it. Put some orange peel right down in there, and then some orange juice. Now, you can use a concentrated juice if you like a heavy orange flavor, but I'm going to just add some fresh squeezed juice and then tomato ketchup. Now, it seems like there's a lot of ingredients going down into this pot, but not really. These are just the kind of things that I like to add. You can add whatever you would like. I have here some Jack Daniels mustard. That's right, from Tennessee. You can use, of course, Creole mustard or any mustard, German mustard, that you have in your own area. This, again, is some little spices. This is orange peel, again, a little concentrated version. These are purple, red, green, black peppercorns for spice. And then the chili powder, which is going to give the barbecue sauce its great barbecue flavor. Of course, I can add, I'm going to get a little fancy here by adding some little kumquats to it. And then I'll stir all of this around down into the barbecue sauce mixture. Now imagine all of the great flavors that's coming together here. We have, of course, the butter with all of the onions and garlic and celery, the peppercorns, the oranges, which is going to give it that nice sweet flavor. And then we're going to add 2 more ingredients, and that's going to be all we need in this dish. And those 2 ingredients are, here in Louisiana, we have a little vinegar that's made with sugarcane syrup. It's a little sweetened vinegar, so it's almost like a sweet and sour. It comes in a really nice bottle. You can get this in a lot of the stores. Of course, you can add just a little brown sugar to your own red wine vinegar and get pretty close to it. And then I'll add a touch of that great sugarcane syrup right down into the sauce. Imagine how nice and sweet this is going to be once it all comes together and cooks into the pot. As I said, this may seem to be a lot of ingredients, but really just get as experimental as you want with this sauce. Add whatever flavors you would like. That's the most important thing here. Okay, now I'll take this and I'll paint my ribs. I've got to add that great barbecued flavor right to the outside of the ribs like this, and you can spoon it on, or you can actually ladle it on with a nice big ladle of the sauce, and then you can cook the ribs in the oven or on the barbecue pit once the sauce goes into, or onto the ribs, I should say, for about 15 to 20 minutes to glaze it over nicely. And you've got the general idea, so I want to show you now what these ribs look like once they're all nice and cooked and out of the oven. I want you to take a look at this great big platter of ribs right out of the oven. Take a look at this. Now, these are these wonderful boiled ribs. You can imagine how nice and tender they're going to be. They'll fall right off of the bone. And then if you add it to the barbecue pit with a little pecan wood smoked or a little hickory smoke on the pit, these things are going to be great. But feel free to put them right in a 350-degree oven for just a couple of minutes. And that's the barbecued ribs. Okay, now what would I cook with these nice ribs? Well, I tell you, another great dish that I discovered up in North Louisiana around Ruston was a dish that is called corn and ham pudding. And it's great with barbecue, but it's also great as a main dish or as a vegetable dish on the table. It's a wonderful casserole. And the corn pudding always begins with some type of smoked ham or smoked meat. So I have here a couple different versions of the smoked meats that could be used in the corn pudding dish. I have the tasso, and I've talked to you about tasso before. This is actually the smoked ham that the Cajuns used to make and season on outside with a little garlic and pepper and hang in the smokehouse over pecan wood for a few hours, and it was used strictly for seasoning. Of course, you could add smoked pork chops or any kind of ham that you have right in your own refrigerator or in the store. And of course, sausage is also good. This great andouille sausage is terrific, but use kielbasa or any smoked sausage, dice it up fine, and you'll have a really, really nice ham dish. Now, I'm going to fire up my black iron skillet again. Here, let me get this fire rolling really good. And into this pot, again, I'm going to add a little buttery flavored oil. And people always ask, what kind of oil should they use when sauteing or frying? And of course, I tell them all the time, don't ever change your recipe just for me. Use whatever oils you like to use in your own kitchen. I mean, if you like olive oil, use it. There's a lot of buttery flavored oils on the market today that are low in cholesterol, and all you have to do is look down the grocery case. You're going to find them. So get that fire nice and cranked up under your saute pan, and then I'm going to add some of the diced tasso here. Now, of course, as I say, you can dice some ham or sausage into it, but I'm going to use the tasso. I'll put it right down into the skillet to give that great, great smoked flavor. Again, I'm going to add just a little bit onions, because we have to have that good flavor in our corn pudding. A little bit of the celery. Of course, we have to have, for color, a little bit red and yellow bell pepper, because corn alone just has that nice yellow color. You want to put some nice colors in there. And then some great green onions, fresh green onions. Of course, again, use whatever flavorings you would like. If you like a lot of garlic, make sure you throw some in here. Now imagine all of these wonderful flavors coming together down into the bottom of the saute pan. Look how pretty these colors are already. Now what I'll do is, while this is sauteing, I'll take the corn, which is all ready. This is a cream-style corn, and I have about 3, I guess 16-ounce cans that I've opened and put right into this nice baking dish. I'm going to add to that 3 eggs. This is what's going to hold the custard together, as well as a little bit milk, not too much. I'll stir all of this around nicely to blend the eggs into the cream. And of course, again, if you don't want to use cream, use yogurt or use skim milk, or pasteurized skim milk will work just great. You can find it in the stores. I'll add the eggs right down into the cream-style corn. A lot of people make their own cream-style corn, but I think it's a little tougher. Now, I'll take all of these nice sauteed vegetables and put it right down into the corn. Now imagine all of that nice smoked meat. Imagine the wonderful flavors of the peppers and the onions and all of those things coming together down in there. And then you would just stir it into the cream-style corn, just like that, and then cover it and put this into a water bath in about a 375 to 400-degree oven. And I've got one already done, naturally, so I want to show you exactly what it looks like. Let me get it right out of the oven. This makes a really, really wonderful dish. Take a look at this. Let me take that pretty hot lid there. Take a look at that. Isn't that really nice? Let me close the oven here. And this makes a wonderful side dish, as I said, or, of course, you can use it as a perfect accompaniment to any type of barbecue. Garnish it a little bit, and, of course, it'll stay hot in that nice crock pot. Now, if you want to serve side dishes with barbecue, there's a lot of things you can do. I have here some nice barbecued beans, but in Louisiana, we make our barbecue beans with either white or red kidney beans, any one rather than the pinto. So try it with a little bit of ham and, again, a lot of garlic and a little sugarcane syrup. Use maple syrup if you can't find the sugarcane syrup. Okay, and here we have a little bit sweet and sour coleslaw with pecans. We've taken a couple different colored cabbages and made a really nice little mixture of vinegar and mayonnaise to give a sweet and sour taste with brown sugar, and toasted some pecans to go with it. What a nice little side dish for barbecue. Well, you know, I told you just a couple minutes ago that I've got a great friend coming to visit, Coach Eddie Robinson. Hey, Coach, how you doing? Boy, I tell you what, it's great to see you. How you been?
I'm fine, but I got a special mission right now.
Oh, gee.
You know, you always, at times you've seen me, you always told me what a great football player you were. Well, I want to time you and measure you and get your speed, and I brought a jersey for you. So we're going to tell you when we're going to have spring, and we want you to come out, and we're going to throw the down and out and the other patterns to you.
You know, they used to call me 10-yard false, huh? Oh, you don't believe that?
Well, that's all right. Oh, we want to throw it to you.
Coach, thank you so much. Hey, it's great to have you.
It's nice to be here.
You know, I was at your famous Bayou Classic. I said your famous Bayou Classic because I know you were real instrumental in putting it together down in New Orleans at the Superdome last year. And we took some shots of it, and I want to take a look at it, and I want you to tell me just exactly what we're looking at is that. Oh, here it is right here. Look,
I tell you, John, I don't like to look at that one. We got whipped. We recovered a punt here, and we thought we were doing pretty well, and things were going well for us then. And Bryant throws a touchdown pass to Singleton, and well, I tell you, we were feeling good at this time anyway. And, well,
there you are.
I don't know that guy on the sideline. Well, you see, that's what you got to have at a football game now, to have the great bands and the pretty girls and things like that.
Because music really is a big part of football.
Yeah, it certainly is. This is Singleton again, and John, you know, we think that Singleton has great promise, and he's going to be an outstanding football player, and he's done well in his work, and he's going to graduate this year.
Well, great. You know, every time the Bayou Classic comes around to Louisiana, it's one of the most unbelievable weeks because that's all you can hear about is the fact that the game is going to be played. And I tell you, you can just quit all work and quit worrying about serving food in restaurants because everybody's going to the Dome for that game. Why is it that, you know, football in Louisiana, I'm sure in a lot of other states it's the same thing, but especially in Louisiana, there's town rivalries. There's towns that actually get out and fight each other over a good football game. Friday night is high school, Saturday college. Right. Why is football just a fever here in Louisiana?
Well, you know, from the time of my boyhood, I think the late Governor and Senator Huey P. Long gave football a thrust in Louisiana when he said that you needed a great football team and a great band. And LSU had that, and he frequented the games, and wherever they had the crowd, you had him. And from then, Southern University had Coach Mumford at the time, and they had Coach Kraft here in the city, and football was just going. The high school, Baton Rouge High, had a great team. So from this feeling of him about football, it's been off and going in Louisiana.
Well, I know that football is a way of life here. Did you always know from an early age, from high school or whatever, that you were going to be a coach?
You know, I did, and I got sidetracked. I thought everybody knew I wanted to be a coach, and my folk knew I wanted to be a coach, and all the kids in my class. But, you know, I went through elementary school and got to McKinley High School, and I played McKinley. But, boy, I got a shock at graduation. You know, before graduation, they had a class day. And we didn't have television, we had radio and all this, but your parents would come out, and this girl would wrap her head up like a fortune teller, and she'd turn the ball around, and she would predict everybody's future. Well, you know, being an aura, from A to R, she had given out everything. When she got to me, you know, my dad always figured I wasn't going to do too much anyway, you know, but my mama, she would always look, and she loved me, say, whatever you are. So while this girl was giving out everything, my dad was looking at me real hard. My mother was smiling and said, Eddie, I love you. Well, anyway, to make it short, she had given away everything, and she got down to me. I said, oh, she probably doesn't like me. What she's going to give me? So she said, look, what do I see? It's the Rose Bowl. E-D-D-I-E. That's Eddie Robinson. They're on the field, I said. I looked at my dad and I flexed. I said, well, she's going to let me run about two or three touchdowns, you know. And then she said, look, the teams are lining up. They're kicking off. And there's Eddie Robinson. Then I flexed. She said, listen to what he has to say. Hot peanuts, cigarettes, chewing gum, and candy.
You were selling in the stadium.
Oh, I tell you, it was a blow.
You know, it's been said that a good coach has to be a mother and a father. You say your mother and father, but I know that a good coach probably does have to be a mother and father. Is that true?
Well, yeah, we think in the profession that we want our guys to be better people for having played the game, and all of us feel that's important to graduate them and things like that. And I think each school uses whatever they can to get them to graduate. You know, like us at Grambling, we have a wake-up program in the morning with two other coaches. We're over at the dormitory at 6:30. We have one of those long, old-fashioned school bells, and we have a master key. We wake everybody up, get your ID card. You have to come over to the dining hall, get the ID card. We line them up. And now, if you don't get out of that bed, I'll ring that bell in your ear till you put your feet on the floor. That's the way to stop the bell from ringing. And then if they don't come over and get the meal card, the ID card, you can't eat till the next morning, and you have to run the bleachers.
Well, you know, I guess it's true then, because, I mean, mothers and fathers turn those kids over to the coach, and they expect to get a good kid back, right?
Yes, and, you know, we think that way in our society. We got to give them good people.
We're going to talk more football, but look, I don't want people to think that you can only coach. I want them to know that you can cook also, because the last time I was in your office, I sat at your desk and ate a little bit of this plum pie, and you told me you made it. Now, I don't know, you gave me the recipe, and I want to share it with all of my friends here. I want you to help me.
I want the guys to know I can do more than coach.
You want to know you don't need that job, right? You don't need that job.
I can leave that and go into this.
I've got about a cup of sour cream here, and I want you to stir that up real nice for me. And then I'm going to add about a quarter cup of a little flour and sugar. Now, that's what you told me, I guess.
Yeah, that's right.
I have that in there.
You swallow that, and we'll have a great one.
And then I'm going to add 1 egg to it. Yeah, it looks like you might have done a pie before. You look like you're stirring that pretty good.
Well, we'll see it.
And then I'm going to flavor it with a little bit cinnamon, a little bit nutmeg, not too much, and then a touch of that good vanilla. You got to have some good vanilla in there. And I'm going to add a little bit, again, cream. I know those football players like heavy whipping cream. Of course, you can use a little skim milk in here if you, like me and you, keeping our weight down, you know.
The mothers and the daddies going to invite me in to make pies.
I tell you what, I bet to get that kid on the team, I bet they'll invite you in to make pies.
I'll make him. He's a good boy.
So once that's all flavored, then I'm going to take a pie shell. I'm using that graham cracker pie shell because you said the other one don't cook good enough, so I'm doing what you said. And then I've added plums. Now, of course, you can add a little peaches to it. You can add a little plums, whatever you'd like. Why don't you go ahead and pour that right on top of that? And I've got to ask you one more question.
All right.
I know that you've been a friend of Coach Bear Bryant. You've been a friend of a lot of the great coaches in American football. And I know a lot of them probably stop and visit with you, but do you ever have the players, either from their teams or from your own team, come back after they graduate?
Well, yeah, when you mentioned Coach Bryant, you know, he got it clear to all of us. We thought when Alonzo Stagg went to 314, that was the end of it. Coach Bryant showed us all that you can go past that. And we got to know him. We visited his place. He visited our place. But, you know, like I said before, many times the guys who play for him, we're on I-20. They come in, and they want to visit and talk about Coach Bryant. Well, my day is done, and it's coffee and it's so many other things. Well, this is how it is with most of the guys who play for the other coaches. If they see Grambling, they're going to come in, and we're going to spend a lot of time.
Now, I know you're a modest man. I know you are, and you never want to talk about this, but you are standing here today, the winningest coach in football. No coach in the history of the game has won more games than you, and I think it's almost up to 380. You told me the other day, well, John, I don't even know. I lost count. I tell you, that's one of the greatest tributes to. Yeah, what in your opinion, I guess I should say, what's the greatest thing that ever happened to Coach Robinson?
Well, I tell you, you've had so many things that really happen, and like I told you, I don't score any touchdown, block anybody, and I don't really tackle anybody. But for all of us, when they come in and play for you and pass, but I really think that one of the things that's outstanding in my mind is the Bayou Classic, because I grew up in Louisiana, and I saw the Sugar Bowl, saw the Rose Bowl, and saw all these things, and I know what you have to do to play in these games. You got to be in Division 1A, and most of our schools in 2A, and just from the beginning of looking at it, I just figured that you needed to do something, create something where your guys would get that feeling, and this is what we tried to do. We patterned the Bayou Classic after the Sugar Bowl, the Rose Bowl, and the Orange Bowl.
And the Bayou Classic is one of the largest seen football games, and it takes place between Grambling and Southern at the Superdome every year.
That's right, and we want people to be proud of the Bayou Classic the way we are, because for the last 18 years, at a minimum of $15 million into the economy in New Orleans.
Coach, I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. I'm going to bake this pie at about $3.50 for an hour, and then we're going to eat it. Thank you so much for coming by and visiting with me today, and y'all come back again as we continue to cook up more of these great Taste of Louisiana. See you later.
Okay.
Funding for this program was provided in part by Bruce Foods Corporation, makers of Bruce's Yams and other distinctive Louisiana-style food products.
This is PBS.
The companion cookbook to A Taste of Louisiana is available for $22.95. The Evolution of Cajun and Creole Cuisine by Chef John Folse features recipes and food history behind Louisiana's cuisine. This 352-page cookbook contains over 250 recipes, including those from this show. To order, call 1-800-973-7246 or write to the address on your screen.